Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and as the 2023-24 campaign comes to an end, it means that very quickly the 2024-25 campaign will be approaching. You know what the summer's like, it flies in, it creeps up on you, which means Celtic will have to have their squad in order sooner than you think for the next campaign. So today we begin the first part of my two-part series to evaluate where the Celtic squad should be come August, and it means it's tier list time today. I'm sure you'll love that. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, please make sure to go down below, hit like and subscribe. It's going to be a fun summer. I think there's going to be a lot done behind the scenes at Celtic to try and revamp this squad moving into not only our domestic competitions for more success next season, but also for the revamped Champions League group. So if you want to be updated on all the news, if you want to be in the know, then hit like, subscribe. I'll have videos up every day during summer to try and keep you up to date as best to my abilities as possible. So the 2023-24 campaign is over, which means all the attention that Celtic turns to the summer transfer window in order to revamp this squad ahead of what should be another successful campaign, hopefully, and maybe the start of some European progression. Now, I know we say this every single year and it's become quite tiresome to the point where I think most Celtic fans have resigned themselves to the same old when it comes to these windows, not to get your hopes up and just to accept the position that we're in. But Brendan Rodgers has spoken very openly over the year, especially after what was a bit of a letdown in the January window, and I think that we will see some vast improvement in this Celtic side with the millions we have gathered through success this year. You know, we talk about that 60 million that we're making from the Champions League. We talk about the money that we're going to bring in for potentially the departure of Matt O'Reilly and others. There's a lot of money to play with at Celtic Football Club at the minute, and if we don't go for it now, then I don't know if we ever will. So it's a big summer, a lot to do. What will the Celtic squad look like come next season? Now, we already know a couple of players are leaving the squad. Joe Hart will be retiring at the end of the season after 3 years of great service as Celtic's number one. Adam Ida and Paulo Bernardo will return to their parent clubs off the back of their loan deals. Who knows if they'll be Celtic players this season. So naturally the Celtic squad will get a little bit thinner, and it's all about how Celtic build on top of that. So we're going to get the tier list out and we're going to do a final evaluation of the squad over this past season. Who should have what sort of, I don't know, position in this squad moving into the next campaign. Should they stay? Should they go? Are they a decent squad player? This is it. This is the final evaluation. We've done a few of these as the season has progressed, but now we can sit down and give the final verdict and see who deserves to be part of Brendan Rodgers' project moving forward. So let's turn to the tier list, shall we? It's my favourite type of video to make, and it's the one that definitely spurs the most conversation in the comments. Keep in mind, it's just one man's opinion. If you don't agree, then feel free to air your opinions in the comments below. No need for some bitterness or some hostility. We can all have a conversation about it. Now, I have got everybody who should be a part of the Celtic first team squad moving into next season. I already know that some people might bring up a couple of different things, and we'll come across that when we get to that bridge. But for example, Bosun Lawal, he's not involved here. I know he's returning from a loan deal, such as the likes of Toby Albayemi, Liam Shaw and many others. I'm keeping them as B team players for now because they haven't broken into the first team scene. So yeah, I think for example, Liam Shaw, we should probably be moving him on next season, but he's not made an impact. He's not played in the first team, so he's a B team player. We're leaving people who have yet to properly debut in the first team out of this list, and that goes for the likes of Daniel Kelly as well. I've not got him involved in this list because his contract's expiring. We don't know if he's going to renew, and ultimately he's still a B team player. He's only made a handful of appearances for the first team. So we're going with first team regulars, the tried and trusted of Brendan Rodgers. If you think there's anybody I've unfairly left out, trust me, there is reason for it. I've not forgotten about them. We're trying to stick with the main beef of the squad. So shall we fly through this, because we have 31 players to talk about moving into next year, and we need to find a place for them heading into the 2024-25 campaign. Who will stay, who will go? Let's figure it out together. We're going to rank them from top players all the way down to the Matt O'Reilly row, which I guess we should probably start with so I can explain. I've given Matt O'Reilly his own role in this tier list because I'm not exactly going to say punt Matt O'Reilly. I don't want to punt Matt O'Reilly. I would love to put him way up here as number one, numero uno, the most important player of the Celtic side. But I have accepted reality. I have accepted his fate. He's probably not going to be a Celtic player next season. And it's heartbreaking. I know it's a tough one to accept. But when the money comes in, Matt O'Reilly is going to want the move. And Celtic are going to want the money. So, yeah, he's got his own little role with a sad face. I don't want him to leave, but I've accepted that it's going to happen. So here we go. Let's start. Yuki Kobayashi. Yes, God knows how he's still here at the Celtic side, but he is. I don't think he got a single appearance throughout that campaign that's just passed. He needs to go. There was a talk of a move in January. It didn't materialise. Surely they'll find one for him in the summer. Unlucky Yuki, but you're the first victim here. Easy one here. Cameron Carter-Vickers, one of our top players, as we all know. He's been linked with numerous sides across the continent. A couple of teams in Turkey are looking at him. We've heard West Ham United in England are looking at him. He seems content here. The reports suggest that he's happy at Celtic and has no intention in leaving. Celtic should keep it that way. I think that, including Matt O'Reilly here, he would be the toughest player to replace at Celtic. He is a must keep, no matter how much money comes flying in for him. I think we would struggle to replace the quality of Cameron Carter-Vickers. He goes right to the top for me. Next one's a funny one, because technically he's not a Celtic player at the minute. He's on loan to Internacional in Brazil until, I think it's December, that deal runs up. When that deal's done, though, he should be away permanently. It's as simple as that. Alexandro Bernabé doesn't have a future at Celtic. I don't mean to sound harsh, just speaking the truth. Good lad, but not Celtic quality. The next two we'll do at the same time. Two of the homegrown Scottish boys. Anthony Ralston, a very good squad player to have. He obviously helps build that criteria in the Champions League with the homegrown players. So I think he's somebody who's definitely worth keeping around. And I think he's pretty happy doing what he's doing as well, chipping in when he needs to, when Alistair Johnson's maybe not fit. Stephen Welsh is an interesting one because it looks as though he could be off. As reports suggest, if the money's there, Celtic are willing to let Stephen Welsh go this summer. So for that reason, I'm going to put him into the punt category. It's not I'm saying we should punt him. It just seems like that is going to happen. There's teams in the MLS looking at him, there's teams in Italy looking at him, and there's also teams in the English Championship looking at him. I think Stephen Welsh, for the sake of his own career, would be interested in exploring these moves so that he's playing football at this age. It would be useful to keep once again for criteria and such, but that centre-back pecking order is only going to get tougher and tougher and tougher for Stephen Welsh. I don't think he has the same luxury as Ralston. Ralston is going to get minutes, he's going to get time, whereas, Welsh has Scales ahead of him, Nawrocki ahead of him, Cameron Carter-Vickers ahead of him, and simply I don't think he's the same level as him, and we're going to bring in more centre-halves, so I think it makes sense to put Welsh in this row. The curious case of Odin Thiago Holm. I'm just going to put him into the loan section because he is somebody who I still feel deep down there is potential there. I still feel like there is quality in this boy that we've seen glimpses of, and then haven't got to see much on the pitch of him. He's not been given a lot of time. So let him go and play football, let him continue his development, and then maybe there's a place for him in this side one day. I don't think we should just get rid of him. I think he was highly rated as a youngster for a reason, and I think that there's definitely potential to nurture there. Let's just do it in a way where he's playing football, loan him out next season, give him that opportunity. I don't know if Brendan Rodgers fancies him or not, because we've barely seen him, but I would certainly keep him on the books, because I think he could come good. I'm not even going to waste my time with James McCarthy. How have we made it to the summer of 2024 and James McCarthy's still part of these tier lists? It's funny at this point. Do you know what, James? Fair play. You're living the dream. Your boyhood club, making thousands a week, not even playing, don't even think you're at training. Fair play to you. I feel like some people are going to say, loan out Kwon again. Maybe allow him the opportunity like he got at St Mirren, and who knows, maybe somewhere he'll come good. If I'm being perfectly honest, I would sway more towards the punt category, if I was being perfectly honest. I think he started off well at St Mirren, but then as time went on, he wasn't even starting games for them. I think he picked up an injury right at the tail end of the season as well. I just don't see it ever happening for him at Celtic, and maybe we should just cut our losses. But I feel like the Quan fans will be saying, no, give him one more loan deal. And I guess there's no harm in that. There's no harm in it at all. So I'm going to put him in loan just now. Maybe give him one more opportunity somewhere in the league, whether it be St Mirren again or somewhere else, to maybe go and try and develop. If I'm being completely honest, if we punt him, we punt him. I don't see much of a future for him at Celtic. The definition of a good squad player to have, Tomoki Iwata. Brilliant when he's been called upon. Really filled in a massive gap when Callum McGregor was injured this season. I think he's quite an important player, to be quite honest, and he's reliable. So he's the definition of a squad player for me. Somebody who I'm happy to see stay around. I think he's got qualities that are good, and he's certainly of use. Just like Scott Bain, I suppose, different qualities to offer, that being that he's Scottish and he helps meet the criteria, but we all know Scott Bain's place in the side by now. He will be a Celtic player till the day he decides to hang up the gloves. I'm pretty adamant of that, to be quite honest. And you know what? He looks as though he's loving life. I have nothing but respect for Scott Bain. Absolutely nothing but respect. He is just like, James McCarthy, living the dream. But do you know what? Once again, just like I said with Iwata, when he was called upon this season, he done a job for us. There was a couple of occasions he had to come in. Done well enough. Fair play to you, Scott. Where is my Baniacs? All the Baniacs are running wild. Here we go with the first one. Let's just do both of them at the one time, Shala. Paulo Bernardo and Adam Ida. Both of them, for me, should be signed up. I spoke about this in yesterday's video, so I'm not going to get too carried away with it and waste too much time. I just want to see both of them signed. I don't know if it's entirely feasible for both of them to be signed. It depends on the situation that surrounds both of them when it comes to transfer fees and negotiations. I want them both signed up though. More Ida than Bernardo. I can take or leave Bernardo. I'm not going to get worked up if he doesn't sign. But if I was in charge, if I was Dermot Desmond, or if I was Michael Nicholson, I would try to make it happen, is what I'm saying. I want both of them signed, but especially this guy, Adam Ida. Adam Ida, for me, is up here. He's important. He's not just a sign them up for me. He's somebody who I think is really, really important. But I'll put them both in their own wee row just now. I've specifically created this role for them. I want them signed. Rio Hatate, one of Celtic's top players, needs to be kept, I think. I'm hoping that we manage to keep him through the summer window. The good thing is, talk has been quiet surrounding Rio Hatate and a move away from the club. I don't think that there's anybody necessarily in the move for him right now. I don't think he's on anybody's radar, but that's, this is early days. The window hasn't even opened yet. We've seen what happened with Jota last summer. I'm not going to get too carried away and saying I think he'll be a Celtic player next year, but I have a good feeling about it. Celtic should be doing everything they can to keep him for one more year. I think he's very important in the gelling of whoever the new midfielder is, because it's got to be McGregor and Hatate, and Matt O'Reilly will be gone. So I think he's important in that gelling process. I'd like to see him stay. I think we should try and do our best to make him stay. He's a top player. So is this man. Enough said. Callum McGregor, captain of the side, one of the most successful captains in the club's history, one of the best players in the team, one of the best midfielders that Celtic have seen in the past 20 years. I can't speak highly enough of Callum McGregor. It's as simple as that. What else do I need to say? It's Captain Cal. What a career resurgence for this man, James Forrest, who I think a lot of people would argue has found himself up in the important category. The last few months have been absolutely brilliant for James Forrest. He has shut up a lot of the doubters, but he's somebody who, let's remember, was on maybe the move from Celtic in January. There was a lot of talk of that. James Forrest touched on that as well recently in an interview. I think that if you're just being completely honest, and this isn't me trying to put down James Forrest or take anything away from what he's accomplished in the last few months, he is a squad player. There's absolutely no denying that. Celtic need to go out and improve the right wing. They need to bring in somebody young and fresh, somebody who's going to up the standard of the final third, and probably resign James Forrest back to being somebody who comes in and out the team. I think if you're being completely honest with yourself, and you might not want to admit it to yourself, but it's true, you can't rely on Forrest being the starting right winger, I think, for the next campaign. If you want to progress in Europe, you need to make that step up. So he is important, don't get me wrong. He's important in the do you know what? I'll leave him at important. Do you know why? Because he's been here for that long that I think that it doesn't just matter what we see on the park. It matters what happens at Lennoxtown and what happens in the changing room. And for that reason, James Forrest is an important figure at Celtic Football Club. You don't stay at a football club and make so many appearances and win so many trophies and score so many goals without being important. So you know what? I've talked myself into putting him into important. But I do think we need to improve on that right wing. There's no denying that. We need options. Because right now, we don't really have any aside for Jamesy. Luis Palma, squad player. I like Luis Palma, and I think there's definitely more to him that we just haven't seen yet, but that's been through his own faults, through his own inconsistencies. He's somebody that, when he polishes, and if he polishes up his game, could be a really important player for Celtic in the years to come. And we've seen so many glimpses of that at the very start of his Celtic career, but it tailed off a little bit. He kind of fell out the side, but he's definitely of use to us. I'm happy we have him here. He's a good squad player. It's as simple as that. But he's somebody who I think if he can find that consistency, could be more than a squad player. And that's what irritates me the most about Luis Palma. Kyogo, yeah, he probably still is a top player. I think a lot of people would maybe make the case that Kyogo should be maybe not considered on the same level as these guys, but he should be. It's Kyogo. Yeah, he didn't have the greatest season. He was much better in the two previous campaigns under Ange Postecoglou, but he's still so vital. There's no denying that. He's a great player to have. I would hate to lose him, in fact. He gives you confidence you're going to score goals. It gives you confidence paired up with the right wingers as well. He's still a top player, no matter how this campaign went. Listen, you can't score 20-odd goals every single season. If you can, great. But he still gave it a good go this year. Just needs to find that same form under Rodgers that he had under Postecoglou. I think I can fly through the next four in a winner, and I'll go through it very quickly. Yang, for me, goes into punt. He does. I've seen enough, and it's just not good enough. I don't mean to sound harsh, but that's the reality of football. You've got to be harsh. You've got to be realistic. And I just don't see it with Yang. It's as simple as that. And it's the same with the big man O as well. I think that especially if we sign Ida, I think it's perfectly clear that his Celtic career has probably come to an end. Brendan Rodgers clearly doesn't fancy him. I don't blame him. He doesn't score enough goals. He's been given his chances. People argue maybe he's not been given enough chances, but the reality is he's been given them. And Adam Ida, he's come in. He's had, the same sort of experience where he's played maybe 10, 20 minutes at the end of a game. And guess what? Came in and scored 9, 10 goals because of it. Not really had that same impact from O. I don't think he's entirely been convincing. I would cut the losses and improve in the striking department. Benjamin Siegrist, he's in the same boat as James McCarthy. He's just desperate to move on. Well, I don't think McCarthy's desperate to move on, but I think Siegrist is desperate to move on. If you read into the stories and believe that he wants to be in Australia with the missus and such. Yeah, I think he will be. I think he'll finally move once again. One of these players that's been linked with umpteen moves away. But it's as simple as that. And talking about Australia, Marco Tilio as well. I'll do him the courtesy of moving him up a little bit further in the punt list. Also somebody similar to Alexander Bernabe, where he's out on loan just now in Australia and won't be back till a later date. However, when he comes back at that later date, I don't see it happening for him. I don't. We've seen him for 20 minutes, I think, in a game at Parkhead earlier in the season, and that was it, before January. It's just, Dyson goes straight up here into the important category. Somebody who, once again, I think can do with some quality competition on that left-hand side. I think he can definitely improve there, but he's got certain attributes which are just impossible to find elsewhere. The pace that he brings, the intensity that he brings, the press, and everything that he's done to James Tavernier in every derby this season that he's played. That's hard to find somebody who brings that same standard. He's an important player. There's no denying it. He's somebody I'd hate to see Celtic lose. Whether he's starting games or not, he's really, really efficient and really good to have. He's an important player. There's no denying that with Phil Dyson. Johnson, Mikey, yeah, can we end it this summer, please? Please. Can this be it? Can this finally be the last summer that we need to talk about Mikey Johnson? It would be class. It would be class if that could just be it. And I actually feel sorry for Mikey at this point that we've had to bring him into this sort of narrative where every transfer window we're just getting fed up of talking about him. It's not his fault. But he's went to West Brom. He started off well there. Finished off well enough as well. Nearly got promotion to the Premier League. He's certainly attracting interest down there. He was enjoying his football. He gave a big emotional farewell to West Brom. I think he'll love a move. So maybe this is the summer he finally leaves Celtic permanently. Nicholas Kuhn, a very, very decent squad player, I think. Simple as that. Not seen a hell of a lot of him since joining, but what we have seen, I think there's definitely qualities there to signal that there's good development opportunity with him. I like him personally. I think that James Forrest coming in over him in the squad speaks a little bit of volumes in regards to his quality that we have here and now. But he's somebody I like, and I think once again, just like Lewis Palmer, a good squad player to have with potential there. My boy. But let's be real, he's off. I'm going to put him at the top though. He's my favourite player out of everyone in this row. Aye, what could have been, Haxa? What could have been? It's painful talking about him in this way, but I think we all know the reality of what's going to happen. Alistair has what I said. Honestly, judging his second half of the season, you could put him up here. I'm going to put him in the important category. He's brilliant though. He's one of my favourite players at Celtic. One of my favourite outfield players. I think he's just unbelievable at times. But I definitely think that there's areas he can improve on as well. I think we've seen that in the opening 6 months of the season when he was kind of struggling. But from January onwards, he really kicked on. And he's a really important part of our back four. Him and Cameron Carter-Vickers are the two that really carry that back four. He's a brilliant character. He's an amazing guy. I love him to bits. He's so important to us. Down to the final few. Greg Taylor, next season should be a squad player, but I'm going to do him the courtesy of keeping him in the important category for now, because I think that he's somebody who gets far too much stick for what he does give Celtic. The 100% effort he puts out there every time, the character that he is in the dressing room, clearly adored by the players and the staff. I think that Greg Taylor deserves so much credit compared to what he might actually get. Next season, I do think that he will be and should be a squad player, because we need to sign a new left back. There is no denying that. He has no competition there either, remember, but for that reason, I guess that does make him important, because he's the only left back at the club. So he finds his way in there for me just now. And down to the final three, all centre halves, funnily enough. So we'll batter through them all at the one time to just wrap things up. Gustav Lagerbielke, he will leave in this window. Somebody who I just find it hard to talk about because it's been such a weird one with him. Somebody who I really didn't think was all that bad, but clearly isn't fancied by the manager. Clearly wasn't wanted by the manager either, and we know that he will probably leave the club. Liam Scales next season, once again, similar to Taylor, this year has been really, really important, but next year, there's no denying it, should be a squad player. Has to be a squad player. We need a top quality centre half partner for Cameron Carter-Vickers. But Scales deserves his new contract, deserves to remain at Celtic, deserves to be a squad player. And you know what, he'll get his chances from time to time, I imagine. I don't think that we've seen the last of Liam Scales by any stretch of the imagination, but we do need to improve on him. And then finally, Mike Nawrowski, very similar situation, decent enough squad player. Somebody who I would actually love to see get the chances that Scales has got this season, but Scales held down his place so well. But somebody who I think will remain at the club. I think that he's got all the qualities of being a potential starting centre half for Celtic one day. But once again, we need someone in the then and now, the here and now, not the then and now, the here and now, and have a quality centre half to add competition to these areas. So there you go. There is my assessment of the Celtic squad at the end of this season, moving into the 2024 campaign, which you'll notice is quite top heavy down here. Look at the amount of players I think that Celtic should be ready to move on this summer. I don't necessarily think Celtic will move on all of these players. For example, a guy like he might stay. Celtic can't exactly just go out and shift everybody and then, leave themselves with a short amount of players come the next campaign. Absolutely not. That's not how things work. This is just, if it was a perfect world and we could sign the correct number of players that we need, this is the players I would get rid of. It leaves us with, what's this, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's a 17-man squad. And I personally believe, and I honestly believe, that is the 17, excluding Matt O'Reilly, of course, the 17 players who are good enough to be playing for Celtic next season and that should be playing for Celtic. I think if we're talking about a European 25-man squad, I think we should be making 8 signings. That's my own personal opinion. I think we should be signing, 2 goalkeepers. This is what tomorrow's part is going to be about. But that's only 16 players, 17 players. So depth is thin when it comes to quality, in my opinion. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. So there you have it. Part 2 will be up tomorrow, where we're going to look at where Celtic should improve, what players they need to bring in, potential options and realistic options from the stories that we've heard. We're going to lay out the squad plan and all the rest of it. So be here tomorrow for that part. Unless big news comes out, then we'll push it back a couple of days. But for now, that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Make sure to hit like and subscribe. Let me know all your opinions in the comments below. And I'll see you all next time.